Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 lessons about leadership that I learned in 2020 and how I can use them to start making better decisions today. But before I get started, I recently found out that only about 10% of our viewers are subscribed to our channel. So give that subscribe button a smash to help our channel grow and so that we can keep doing more videos. So I'm really grateful. I get to do a lot of things. So between cricket, playing cricket, dancing, teaching dancing, running my business, some civil engineering too, and trying to mentor other entrepreneurs, other upcoming people in our beautiful city here. So through all those things, I get to meet with a lot of people, I get to interact with a lot of people, I get to learn from a lot of people, and I also get to experiment too with a lot of things. So what I'm going to say today are the 5 things that I learned about leadership in 2020, and you can actually start using the same techniques, same tactics to start making better decisions today. So the first one is ironic coming from me. So it's very important to listen more and to talk less, because I find a lot of the times when people are talking, when they're interacting, they actually agree with each other about 80% of the things that they are talking about or they are trying to do. But what comes down to that 5 or 10% where people might not always agree all the time. But because people end up focusing on that 5 to 10%, or there's that push to always try to say, I need to make my point, I need to say my point first. But if you actually start listening to other people, you try to get their angle, you actually understand that you're both on the same page. And the whole thing with listening more, it's as you're talking to people, you get an idea of what they want to get out of the process, what they're trying to work towards. So you get an understanding of their angle. So it's up to you. So once you know someone's angle that they're coming from, and you already know what you want to do yourself. So depending on, you might not always agree, you might agree, but that just gives you the flexibility to change your tactics around. So that's point number 1. So the second one actually builds on the last one. So the right word would be empathy. So someone mentioned this to me a few weeks ago. So what we see these days, because anything you want, you can see it then and there. So if you want to order pizza, you just call on the phone and it's there. So it's like everything is instant. You want to talk to someone in a different continent, you just call them right away. So because there's that mentality, that instant culture, that whatever you get it then and there. But then the trick when you're dealing with people, when you're interacting with people, once you actually show that you care and you start following up with people in everything that you do, so that's now a rare quality to see these days. People are still interested in a lot of what they do, but just that showing that compassion, showing that you really care towards be it what you're saying or what other people are saying to you, that really makes a difference. And once you start following up with people actually respect that, and you see a positive impact. So the third one sort of builds on the last 2. So I'll give an example, but you actually know yourself the best, your own coach, your own expert. So you actually know what works best for you, you know what motivates you, you know what you're thinking. So I'll give an example myself. So the way I dance bachata myself is a bit different from how other people do. So I figured this out coincidentally. We were in Montreal at the time. So I was just watching other people dance and I was seeing it seems like a lot of people had a lot of moves. But for some reason the people that they were dancing with, they're not smiling a lot. So I was wondering what's going on. So I noticed as I started dancing with people, so myself, I always try to give the person I'm dancing with the freedom. I want them to be free. So what you see a lot these days, a lot of people tend to lead more with their arms. But myself, my technique is centered around leading with my body, giving the person that I'm dancing with as much chance as possible to style and add flavor to their dance. So a lot of people have actually tried to coach this out of me, to try to get me to lead more with my arms. But because I've had to push back to say no, I know what it works best for me, I figure out a way that is different. So I see the kids that I coach cricket, we have a wide range of ages. But what I try to do when I coach them, I try to get them to enjoy the game, give them a few tips here and there, but I try to give them as much freedom as possible, so that as they are playing, they just get a better understanding of the game. They get a better understanding of what works best for them. And the more you just do that, people always try to tell you things, people always try to influence you, but you don't want to be a product of other people's opinions. So you still want to know, well, this is what works best for me, this is what this person is telling me. But it's up to you to decide to say, like, I'll take part of this, I'll take part of this. So the more you can become your own expert, it just means your freedom towards your choices, and you do what works best for you. So the fourth one is, it's been a critical one in 2020. So 2020, with the pandemic, and with a lot of content that you're now seeing online every day, it's like everyone has this ability to broadcast through their social media from their devices. So it's about branding. So what happens is, so since you know yourself, you would know the type of brand that you want to build, be it around your business, around your personality, around the activities that you're trying to do. So once you get an understanding of your brand, you can start making a story out of this. Because one thing I learned this year, what actually sells with people is, once you sell a story, once you have a story, be it around your product or be what you're dancing, that's what actually connects with people in the long term. And that's how you build the relationships that you need to succeed. And once people appreciate your story, they'll start telling people that same story, and that's how you actually grow. So I'll give myself my example. So Jabula has been my brand. I'm really consistent with that for the past 2 or 3 years. So our story is always centered around sharing our happiness and making an impact in our community. So be it through the events, be it everything that I do, I always make sure that we are around that story. And people actually start like following to say, well, this is what we're doing an event here, I'm teaching people here, we're getting someone to come to our province from outside. And I've actually noticed, like, sometimes, like, I'm just in the grocery store, I'm just doing something, and people actually start asking me detailed questions about the things that we're doing. And myself, I'm like shocked to say, like, I just did this in my kitchen. I made this little video talking about bachata, trying to get it towards this direction. But because I always make sure there's a story with everything that I do, in that story, people keep talking about it, and that's how you grow. So the more you can get a better understanding of your brand, what you want to get out of it, it just gives you like you don't drift. Because you have your brand, you know your story. You don't have these thoughts that are like trying to distract you, because you already know this is the target and this is the story that I'm working towards. So the last one, this is fairly important too. I was recently talking to my friend about this. So the last one, so when you're doing your business or you're doing an activity or even in your everyday, so there's things that are like in your short term that are like in front of you, and there's things that are in your long term. So you should not measure your success based on the short term. The long term is what really makes you win in the long term, because it's a long game. It's never a sprint. Everything is always a marathon. So because once you get an idea of your long term coming from your story, it just gives you the flexibility to plan, to see ahead, to say this is what I want to be maybe next year, maybe in 3 months. And because you already have that picture in your head of where you want to be, once you get an idea of the picture to say this is where I want to be at the certain time, you can start working your way towards the bigger picture that you want to achieve. Okay, so since I'm in a good mood today, I'll give you guys a bonus. So the last one, number 6, time. Everything comes with time. So there's no way you're going to start doing something today, you become an expert at it. So same thing, if I look at the same video the first video that I ever made myself, and I look at the video that I am today. So with each video that I do, I always learn something comes up, I always learn a new trick, and I always figure out a way to do something, a certain thing better the next time. So the more you do something, the more patient you are with yourself. Like everything is always like, it's like building a house. So building a house takes time. So you have to do the little things. Eventually the little things add up to something bigger. So before I let you go, I have a few links in the description to some of the gear that I use for recording. So my beloved microphone here, it really works well for indoors. The cameras that I use, the lights that I use to make sure that you can see me nice and clear, and also the software that I use. So just check out some of those descriptions to help support our channel and to your past grow. But before I let you go, I'll do a quick recap. Okay, so before I let you go, I'm just going to do a quick recap on the things that I talked about. So the whole point of this video was the 5 things I learned about leadership in 2020 that can help you to start making better decisions in today, in 2022 and beyond. So the first one, listening more. The more you listen, you get an understanding of people's ideas, you get an angle of what they are coming towards, and you can adjust your tactics based on that. So the second one, empathy. So we live in a world where everything is instant. So there's a lot of focus on like your own image. But if you actually show people that you care about what they're doing, the product you're selling, or the activities that are working towards, so people would actually respect that, because that's a rare quality to see these days. So if you show compassion, you care towards what other people are doing, you follow up, a lot of things will happen for that. So number 3, a lot of people will try to tell you a lot of things, give you certain advice, but you know yourself the best. You're your own expert. So it's up to you to take all those little things that people are giving you and choose to say, this is what works best for me, this is what I want to do. So number 4, 2020 was a lot about branding. You can now build your brand around social media. But what you want to do with your brand, you want to work towards a story. That way, once you build your story, you know where you're going. It just gives you a target to work towards. So number 5, no matter what you do, there's always the short term and the long term. So sometimes the short term is what sort of like affects the survival of the thing that you're working towards. Those are like you're trying to put out many fires. But you still want to get an idea of what you want to do in the long term. Because once you give your long term idea, it means you can adjust or you can work through your short term things to get towards the long term. So I'm in a good mood today, so I'll give you the last one bonus. Number 6, time. Everything comes with time. The more you do something, the better you get at it, the more comfortable you get at it. So once you have all these 5 things lined up, just give it a bit of time, give it a bit of patience, and you'll figure out everything one step at a time.